Today, we're diving headfirst into a really wild idea, a reality where truth isn't something you find, but something you literally forge with your own will. We're going to explore the final, absolutely frenzied transformation of Wotan, a key figure in the Will mythos. This is all about his radical apotheosis, his transformation into a god, and it's all set back in the 1800s.
So, let me start by asking you something that's right at the heart of all this. What if truth wasn't something you just find? What if it's something you create? What if everything you've ever thought of as solid, objective truth was actually just a story? And what if you had the power to write a completely new one? All right, let's get into it. We're talking about the final stage of Wotan's apotheosis, his transformation into this godlike being. But here's the thing. This isn't your typical story of enlightenment. No, not at all. This is about him just completely blowing up all the old ideals to embrace something totally new, something chaotic, a reality that he builds himself. Now, you gotta understand, this idea just completely dismantles a core pillar of Western thought. The traditional view, the one we got from the Enlightenment, says that truth is something that matches up with the real external world out there. But Wotan, in his frenzied state, he sees that whole concept as, well, a fragile illusion, something that could break at any moment. And this so-called illusion, it actually has a name in the mythos. They call it the green gold. So just think of it like this. It's the symbol for that whole, stable, independent, objective reality that everyone else believes in. But for Wotan, green gold is completely worthless now. It's a fake promise, and he is more than ready to just toss it aside. Okay, so if the old truth is gone, what takes its place? Well, this is where we get to the first huge shift in thinking. We're now in a world where truth isn't something you discover, it's something you create. This is the whole mandate of the Overman, of being powerful enough to forge their own values and their own reality. And this really lays out the difference perfectly, right? You've got the Enlightenment view over here, truth is discovered. But then you have Wotan's frenzied perspective, truth is willed into existence. It doesn't have to correspond to some independent world out there. Nope. It just has to correspond to his own internal values and that frenzy. And man, this quote really nails it. It gets right to the heart of his new power. Think about it. The world isn't shaping him anymore. His will is shaping the world. It says reality becomes a projection of his own expanding will. It's like the entire world is just a canvas for whatever's going on inside his head. So here's a problem, right? If reality is just a projection of his will, how in the world do you even talk about it? Your normal everyday language, it's just not built to describe something that's always changing, always in flux. You're going to need a whole new language. And that is where the mad runes come into play. So, what are these mad runes? Well, they're not for talking about, tables and chairs. They're a bridge, a linguistic bridge to what the source calls the unheimly, that uncanny, kind of unsettling, deep core of the universe. They're literally the language of chaos, built from the ground up to describe a reality that is in constant flux. And this is absolutely crucial to understanding Wotan's whole deal, because from the outside, it looks like complete insanity. But within this way of seeing things, his madness is really a higher form of perception. He's seeing the raw, untamed force of the universe, what's called der Wille, in a way that our normal minds just can't process. Yeah, and this quote just frames it perfectly. What others perceive as insanity, Wotan perceives as the necessary truth. See, his madness isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's the necessary truth he needs to bring about a whole new era, one that's not about stability and reason, but all about chaos and total transformation. Okay, so let's follow this logic. If truth is totally subjective, and the only way to talk about it is with mad language, then what on earth happens to morality? Well, it gets completely cut loose from all its usual anchors. We are now entering a territory that is, for real, beyond good and evil. And this change it's fundamental. The old way of thinking, the old game, was all about telling the difference between what's true and what's false. But in Wotan's new reality, forget that. The only thing that matters now is the difference between what's powerful and what's weak. An idea isn't true because it's correct. It becomes true because someone was powerful enough to impose it on the world. So where does all this lead? It leads to this idea of radical acceptance called amor fati, which literally means love of fate. Wotan doesn't just put up with his chaotic, frenzied life, he absolutely embraces it. every single terrifying, uncanny, imperfect piece of it. He affirms it all as his own divine, self-made truth. He loves it.
So the big question is, how does Wotan actually make this new truth true? How does he impose it on the world? Well, he doesn't just sit around thinking about it, he acts. He uses this force, described as chaos magic, this kind of divine lightning, to literally blast his version of reality into existence.
And there's a whole process to this chaos magic. It's not random. First, his divine lightning comes down and just shatters all the polite, fake fronts that people put up. Then, bam, it exposes their secret sins, their true nature underneath. And when all that's burned away, what's left? The only thing Wotan believes is real, the truth of strife. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway from Wotan's worldview. Things like peace, order, they're just deceptions. They're temporary illusions that need to be burned away. The only thing that's truly real, the only thing that actually lasts, is permanent struggle. For Wotan, that is the rock-bottom, fundamental truth of what it means to exist.
And that really brings us to the final, lingering thought. After going through this whole radical idea of Wotan creating his own reality, you kind of have to turn the question back around, don't you? If truth really can be willed into existence, if it isn't found but made, then you have to ask yourself, whose will is shaping the reality that you see every single day?